So I think we can all agree that playoff baseball is one hell of a drug. And just like real drugs, the more you get, the more you tend to want. And I think we can also all agree that the wild card expansion of the playoffs in MLB has been a wild success. We get more playoff action, which is pretty much all you can ask for, right? And so I think we should just double down on this extra playoff postseason baseball experience and just expand the playoffs to 8 teams. And there's a couple of reasons why I'd want to do this. And not to sound too much like foolish baseball or to get into a John Boy media breakdown, I just want to expand on the concept of a hockey, an NHL style playoff bracket. So currently the MLB playoff bracket is set up. You have 3 divisional winners from each league and 3 wild card teams from each league, meaning that 6 teams from each league, a total of 12, make it to the playoffs. And I think to simplify the math, we just go with 8 teams. But to that point, we keep the same style of which teams get in and which don't. I don't want to get rid of divisional rivalries like Boston Yankees, Baltimore Yankees, Tampa Bay Yankees, Blue Jays Yankees, pretty much anybody against the fucking Yankees, okay? I don't want to get rid of divisional rivalries that have been brewing for decades and whatnot. I don't want to ruin that aspect of the game, and I also don't want to get rid of the 162 game test. If you add more playoff games, assuming you don't adjust the overall schedule from the beginning of spring training to when the playoffs will ultimately end, we can't just introduce or eliminate any games from the 162 game test. It's just too important, too pure baseball, and I wouldn't want to get rid of that. I don't want to get rid of the 162 game test, and I don't want to get rid of the divisional rivalries. I think what we do simply, you have the 3 divisional winners make it, and then instead of 3 wild card teams from each league, you have 5 wild card teams from each league for a total of 8 from each league, and then you set it up like a typical Sweet 16 bracket, right? And just like the NHL playoffs, where you have 4 rounds to get through to make it just like easy and fluid to see. The only difference there is that I don't want to see the wild card series best of 3s. You know, the playoffs are different from the regular season. To make the playoffs different from the regular season and have it be an actual playoff series. You made it to the playoffs. Congratulations. You're not going to go home in 2 games. Maybe 3 if you're the Jays. But essentially, you still have your 3 divisional winners, your 5 wild card teams, but then you seed them according to their record once the dust settles at the beginning of the playoffs, and then you just sit them up based on their record, based on normal seeding. And then you have 2 divisional series, all right? Simply put, you have a round 1 divisional series, best of 5, and then a second divisional series, best of 5. And then once we get to ALCSs and World Series, then it's best of 7. That's fine. But I want to eliminate the best of 3 playoff wildcard series. That shit sucks ass. I also want to eliminate the concept that the other problem that exists with a wildcard series is the buys for teams that win their divisions. I don't want to see teams that win 100 games sit around for a week and then struggle to beat teams that only won 85. I don't want to see that shit. I don't think MLB fans want to see that shit. And I don't think MLB wants to see that shit, right? And I think the biggest catalyst to good teams losing immediately in the playoffs is this week-long bye. Major League Baseball, or just baseball in general at any level, is like a brain calibration thing. You cannot take a week off and then get right back up to playoff speed after taking 7 days off. You can't get game ready fast enough. And there's so many times when you see these teams who win these games get complacent for like the first 1 or 2 games of a series, and even if they can manage to scrape a game or 2 together, it's just too late at that point, and they get dusted. Like LA getting absolutely slaughtered by Arizona. I mean, we could talk about Arizona. The fact they haven't lost a fucking game. Texas hasn't lost a game, and they had to play Tampa Bay and Baltimore. Like, that's just crazy. And that's why I think the addition of shittier playoff teams into the playoffs would just add a little bit more excitement. It would get rid of the bye period so that good teams don't have off days, but then they get to play against shittier teams in the first round. That's, that's good. That's more games to watch. And hypothetically, in theory, even though baseball is a weird sport, those good teams should win more often than not. I think the reason why these good teams get dusted by lesser teams is because of these days off. That is a humongous disadvantage to take a week off during a Major League Baseball schedule. Okay? Get rid of the bye week for good playoff teams and then just have 2 additional teams from each league make it in. And I know that's 16 teams out of 30, but I think there might also be some macroeconomical impacts to the game in this fashion. There's less incentive for monster teams to spend huge amounts of money on players that'll get them through the regular season when you don't need to win 100 games to get in, right? Back in the day, it used to be like you needed to fucking make hay during those 162 games. But like, I still think you would still have the combativeness of the 162 games, but then you have way more excitement down the stretch in late August and September with wild card teams and teams like nearing 500 just trying to battle each other out for a playoff spot. And realistically, if a team like the New York Yankees this season, who would have made it in under this new format that I'm proposing, they should get dusted by the number 1 seeded team that they play, which is probably Baltimore at that point, right? So, and with no time off, I think Baltimore manhandles the shit out of the Yankees. So I think that's the biggest thing is I hate the buys. I hate the bye. It's not a thing that exists in baseball, and it does way more hindrance to a good team than an advantage. Yeah, you get to set up your pitching staff and all this other shit, but the main thing is that if your offense doesn't stay calibrated to fucking game speed, they ain't gonna pick it up in the first 2 games. That's the biggest weakness of it, and I don't want to see that. And by not seeing that, we just add more playoff games, and then boom. I think better teams, they play more games, and they will play better as well. And so for the fans, we get more playoff baseball and more teams potentially making it to the postseason, despite the fact that they probably will get rolled. What do you think? Am I an idiot or am I a genius?